Andres here. Today we're going to be reading No Babysitters Allowed by Amber Stewart. I chose this book to read together today because it's almost Easter time and one of the main characters in this book is a rabbit. So I thought it would be fun to think about bunnies and rabbits with Easter around the corner. So before we start reading, I have some things that I just want to talk to you about and that we're going to discuss before we read. And we're going to use a thought board to guide us through the reading process. We're going to have kind of 3 steps that we're going to go through on the thought board. And the first step that we're going to do, and we're going to do this before we start reading, is predict. We're going to talk about what we think might happen in this story and who the characters might be, what the setting might be like, and we're going to do that together. And the second thing we're going to do, while we're reading, we'll stop and I'll ask you a few questions. And those are going to be about comprehending the story. Do you understand what's going on in the story? Do you know where the setting is taking place? Do you know who the main character is? What's their name? And then lastly, the third thing here on the thought board that we're going to be doing together is retelling and discussing the story. We're going to be talking again about who the characters were, what was the setting, what was the plot of the story, and then we can discuss who was your favorite character, why you enjoyed the story, and what you thought made the story so great. Now, before we start reading, you can see I have a little friend here. This is Tulip, my favorite stuffed animal. In this book, I'll give you a little spoiler alert. The main character here, he has his favorite stuffed animal named Rabbity. He's a big part of the story, and so I thought it'd be fun if I brought my favorite stuffed animal, Tulip, to hang out with us while we read the story. So, before we jump into the reading, I want to ask you now what you believe, based on the cover of the book, what the story might be about. Obviously, I think we can draw from the cover that there may be a babysitter involved. It is in the title, No Babysitters Allowed. We can see lots of toys on this cover. There, he looks like he likes to play. He likes to make forts. We can see he built a fort from using a couple sheets over a big table, and it maybe kind of looks like he likes to play by himself because I don't see anybody else in there besides his stuffed animal Rabbity. I have read this book before, so I do know the characters' names. But yeah, he looks like he likes to play with lots of toys. So, alright, let's jump in and find out. Alright, so let's begin. No Babysitters Allowed by Amber Stewart, illustrated by Laura Rankin. Does anybody know what it means, illustrate? What does illustrated mean? Why is that included in on the cover of a book? Well, of course we have our author, Amber Stewart. She's the one responsible for writing the story, coming up with the characters, the setting, the plot, everything text-wise that you can read in the book. Illustrating is referring to the pictures, the drawings that are appearing on the page with the text. Okay, so no babysitters allowed. Hopscotch was a brave boy. And there's Hopscotch here. And a little spider. He was so brave he could take a spider that came visiting back out to the garden when Mommy was scared. And when he fell off his tricycle and had to have a band-aid on his leg, he didn't cry at all. There were many things that Hopscotch could do very, very bravely. Does everybody know what a tricycle is? The 3-wheeled bikes. And anybody know what bravery means? What does it mean to be brave? Think about that. When have you been brave? What do we mean when we say brave? We're mainly speaking about when it may be hard to do something and you have to have a little courage and confidence to do it. And it might be a little bit hard to do, but you withstand the barriers and the obstacles and you get it done anyway. That's what it means to be brave. But when Hopscotch realized that tonight was a Miss Honeybunch the babysitter night, he didn't feel brave at all. Why do you think he might be a Miss Honeybunch the babysitter night? Mommy and Daddy look like they're getting ready to go out, maybe? Sweetheart, Mommy said, don't you like Miss Honeybunch? No, said Hopscotch. Rabbity and I do not like Miss Honeybunch. But really, Hopscotch didn't like the bedtime without Mommy and Daddy. It made him feel all worried inside, and that made his tummy hurt. I have a tummy ache, Mommy, Hopscotch said hopefully. You can't go out when my tummy is worried. Miss Honeybunch can give you warm milk for that. Daddy smiled and kissed him better. Rabbity can have some too. Run along now. We'll be fine, said Miss Honeybunch kindly. Mommy was looking as worried as Hopscotch. Here's Miss Honeybunch, the babysitter. And we can tell that Hopscotch looks worried, looks a little scared. He's holding on tight to Rabbity as Mommy's walking out the door. Hopscotch and Rabbity pressed their noses to the goodbye window, still waving long after Mommy and Daddy had turned the corner out of sight. Now, Hopscotch, said Miss Honeybunch, what shall we do? Shall we paint a picture? Hopscotch and Rabbity just pressed their nose closer to the goodbye window and gave a little sniff. Now, Hopscotch doesn't look very happy here, does he? No. He's upset that Mommy and Daddy had left, and he's now with Miss Hopscotch. Hiding is fun when someone is... Oops. What about building a car, suggested Miss Honeybunch. They gave a slightly bigger sniff. I know, said Miss Honeybunch brightly. Let's play hide and seek. Who's played hide and seek? Hopscotch shook his head sadly. No, thank you, he sighed. I think I will be playing hide and no seeking all by myself. And off he went to hide in the special No Babysitters Allowed camp that he had made earlier in the day. Rabbity stood guard outside. There's that fort we see again that was on the cover of the book. That says No Babysitters Allowed camp. Hiding is fun when someone is seeking, but hiding on your own when no one is looking for you is very boring, as Hopscotch soon discovered. There was not much to do in his camp, especially with Rabbity on guard duty. It might have been fun to build a car or paint a picture, as Miss Honeybunch had suggested. So when he heard Miss Honeybunch ask if Rabbity would like to hear a story while he guarded the entrance, Hopscotch picked up his ears, especially because it was one of his favorite bedtime stories. But then the strangest thing happened. Miss Honeybunch got the story mixed up. She started in the middle, confused all the names, then made up the story all together. And she did this with not one book, not two, but 3, until Hopscotch couldn't stand it anymore. And burst out of his camp. What does he look at here? Does he look mad? Does he look surprised? Does he look angry? Does he look happy? What do you think based on his look here, his facial expressions, that he might be ready to do or say to Miss Honeybunch? Think about that. Miss Honeybunch, he said, you're reading the stories all wrong. You're mixed up. Oh dear, sweetheart, am I? Miss Honeybunch smiled. Perhaps you could help me out. So Hopscotch very patiently told Miss Honeybunch about the stories in the books. And then showed her how to build a race car. Last of all, how to paint a picture of a lovely sunny day. Then Miss Honeybunch showed Hopscotch how to make delicious warm milk and tucked him into bed. I think they had a little bit of bonding here, so they're coming together, and Hopscotch may be changing his feelings about Miss Honeybunch and being left alone with her. Much later that evening, Mommy tiptoed into his bedroom to give him a kiss goodnight. "How is your tummy, sweetheart?" she asked. "My tummy isn't worried anymore," whispered Hopscotch sleepily. "And if she wants, Miss Honeybunch can come and play again." The end. So I think we learned kind of a cute little story. Has anybody ever had an experience with a babysitter before, or being maybe alone with grandma or grandpa while parents are away? Have any of you experienced that? I know I did. I really enjoyed having a babysitter when I was younger. I got to play and maybe do some things I wasn't able to do when mommy and daddy weren't home. And my babysitter, she always liked to play with a lot of my toys, and we played together. So those were sweet memories for me. But let's go back to our thought board. So, number one thing we did was we predicted. So we kind of, based on the cover of the book, we talked about what the book might be about. We found out that it did include a babysitter, and it did include toys and playing and Rabbity and Hopscotch. And two, while we were reading the book, we comprehended, we tackled some words that we might not understand, and we explained them and talked about them, and maybe some feelings, some facial expressions we talked about that we saw from Hopscotch. And now we're going to do number 3 here. We're going to retell and discuss the story. So, as we read the story, we found out that Hopscotch will be having a babysitter. We saw from the illustrations and from the text that his mommy and daddy were getting ready to go out, and he was going to be left at home with a babysitter, which was Miss Honeybunch. Now, the setting of this book stayed the same. It was obviously Hopscotch's home. All of his toys were there, and you can see Miss Honeybunch from the illustrations. She was walking into their home. And we learned that Hopscotch didn't have a very good attitude towards her in the beginning, but he did come around to her because she would do things and ask him to participate in things that he liked to do. So I remember my babysitter. I always liked to, I had a little keyboard and microphone set, and she would always want to sing with me and play the keyboard, and we did that together, and that we grew a bond from that. And Miss Honeybunch and Hopscotch grew a bond doing things that Hopscotch liked to do, like drawing a picture or reading a story. So they bonded over things like that. So as we go from the beginning of the book to the very end, we saw how Hopscotch's attitude changed in his facial expressions, and how he really came around to Miss Honeybunch, and how Miss Honeybunch was really loving and kind to him and tried to do things with him that she thought he would like to get him to maybe like her a little bit more and be a little more open to her and have a better time and not be upset while his mommy and daddy were gone. So yeah, that was No Babysitters Allowed. So I think my favorite part of No Babysitters Allowed was when Miss Honeybunch was reading the stories wrong on purpose to get Hopscotch's attention, so he would come out and help her and they could read and bond together. That was probably my favorite part of the book. Either that part or at the very end when mommy and daddy come home and they asked about his tummy, and he said, "My tummy doesn't hurt at all," and he ended up having a good time with Miss Hopscotch. So he really came around to her. And of course, our main character was Hopscotch here. And of course, we had Rabbity in the story, and Mommy and Daddy, and Miss Honeybunch. So those are the characters that I noticed. Is there any other characters maybe that we could have noticed that had a name that we maybe skipped? I don't think so. No? Nope, I don't think so. You had a lot of toys. Okay, well thank you class for reading No Babysitters Allowed. I chose this book because it's almost Easter time, and I always think of bunnies and rabbits, and this guy here, Hopscotch, is a bunny, and so I thought it'd be fun to read about a bunny. So thank you guys, and have a good day.